welcome back to another episode, and we're in our third week of our quarantine due to the COVID-19, and we're in our third week of our apocalypse, but not pandemic-related apocalypses. And first week, we did water apocalypse, then we did ape apocalypse, and now we're doing dragon apocalypse with the movie Reign of Fire.
Yes.
So, Kieran, what do you think of Reign of Fire?
Reign of Fire was surprisingly... it surprisingly holds up, but also I feel like squanders its massive potential. I think that would probably be... Like, it has no right looking as good as it does, considering it came... Yeah, it came out in 2002.
I know, I had to check. Yeah, I was like, maybe it was 2012. Maybe I was wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like 2012, if it came out in 2012, I'd be like, oh, the effects are a bit dated, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like, that's crazy that this came out so long ago. That the only real competition you have in the ballpark, I feel like, is that Dragonheart film with Sean Connery. I feel like that was the 90s, though. So
that was 96. I actually Googled some clips from that, because I was like, does that movie look as terrible as I remember it looking? Because it was only 6 years earlier. It looks fucking atrocious in comparison. The dragon design...
Yeah. It looks worse than you remember, and then this looks better than you remember. Because I watched this movie when I was a kid. My mum is a big fan of this movie. I remember watching it when I was pretty young, and a lot of it, I was surprised how much of it I remembered, because I felt like it would be like watching it for the first time again, because I probably haven't seen it since, a year or two after it came out. But yeah, no, I would say that the first act of this movie holds up particularly well. I think that the restraint that they showing the dragon gets less and less as the movie goes on. I should say dragons, but and I think the more they show, probably the less effective it is. But even some of the wide shots the wide clear shots you get in the third act are pretty good. Like, it holds up pretty well. And there's just a few shots here and there where you've got, say, a compositing issue where you can kind of see the edges of someone on a green screen, or maybe the dragon moves a little bit too quickly. So just a motion control. They hadn't kind of worked a lot of those kinks out. But for the most part, like, the visual effect of the dragon is implemented into the shot really, really well. You hear the corridor crew guys talk about implementing visual effects with black levels, where the blackest part of the frame should match the blackest part of the visual effect. And So you check whatever the darkest part of the frame is, and say it's like a wide shot of one of these scorched fields with the castle and their dragons kind of flying through the background. Because the dragon's further away than things in the foreground, it's kind of a little bit hazy and has that, looks like it's in the distance. And the way they sold that effect really added quite a lot. So the shots you get of it flying around in the distance, they've got kind of a long, like a telephoto lens, and I don't know, I just think it's all implemented really well, and I wish that they had, I think, used a lot more of the techniques that they used earlier in the movie, and continued that.
So I've been real keen to watch this movie for fucking ages. I heard about it. It's like an apocalypse dragon movie set in London or something. That's kind of what I'd heard, And so I was like, ooh, like London, from that I'm like modern, so it's like a modern kind of thing. So it's like, I'm interested to see what a dragon's like without, swords. But I don't know. I think my biggest issue with the film was it's like a movie about guns and shit versus dragons. Like, not really, but it's like, that's like its hook. It's just like, it's different with any other dragon kind of stuff. And I thought it completely squandered, and I hated the storyline. I hated the plot. I hated all the developments of all the things. And if Christian Bale wasn't in it and the dragon didn't look good, I'd say it was unwatchable. And that's I'm just the biggest fan of dragons. And like, you're right, when it's flying in the distance, I thought it was so good. Like when the movie started and the dragon first appears like flying in the distance, I was like, that's as good as in Game of Thrones. Like we're completely spoiled now, like in 2020, spoiled for dragon scenes, beautiful, amazing looking dragon scenes of all different types. But this movie was so good. And my only issue with some of that flying stuff was I thought it was a little bit quick. Like it reminded me of the Night King's dragon. And when it moved, it was just like, it's a bit too quick. It doesn't, the body seems like, I don't know, I think something that big should kind of have a bit more weight. But
and when it does have weight, it really works. Like I think there's a shot when it kind of lands on the castle and you feel the weight of it kind of coming down its wings, kind of, you know, a shot like that works a lot more because it's not darting through the frame really quickly. It kind of comes in, lands, and then breathes fire in, and it's not a perfect visual effect, but the movement works, you know?
Yeah, it was and I just loved all the little elements, like the fact that they would, like when they discussed the double glands or whatever, and the way it like shoots out, like kind of spits out this like venom that's like not venom, sorry, like, you know, it's flammable, and then the other thing kind of ignites it.
Yeah, like a chemical
the way
reaction.
they did it, like I was looking at some behind the scenes and they were like, we're going for like a reptilian hawk, kind of this and that, and I was like, everything they were saying, I was like, you did that. You are fantastic, because you made this movie, like, I'd say I'd recommend it, even though I like hated so much of it, just because I was so disappointed that like, it just, I don't know, I just wanted it to be better. I wanted a dragon movie, like, it just kind of made me sad. It's like, why can't we have both, you know? Like, why can't I have the awesome effects and a really compelling, interesting story? Like, I felt like it was kind of saved just by like, it was brisk enough that like, every time I was like, oh my God, what the fuck? It would then suddenly be like, oh shit, more dragon stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it would kind of distract me. Like, I'd be like, wait, what the fuck? Like, there was a bit when the boy's like, I'm leaving, you're not my dad, and Christian Bale's like, aw, and then the next scene, nothing in the movie has happened, nothing's happened, and then he's just like, I'm back. And I was like, what the fuck? But then, bam, Matthew McConaughey's fighting a dragon, you know? It just kind of kept going enough where I was like, cool, this is, you know. But I just think that overall, I was so tired by the end of like the dreary, grey, bleak, very cliche apocalyptic feel that the movie has, generally speaking, over like the whole thing.
Yeah, I think the fact that they shot on location added quite a bit to a lot of it, but it did also, I guess it could have used some color or a little bit, it was very, very blue and grey, and I don't know, the aesthetic kind of worked for me in parts, and then other parts I thought, this is kind of very familiar. Like, it felt like a lot of stuff I'd seen before, and then because they'd thrown dragons into the mix, it maybe kind of makes it seem a little bit more fresh for the first part. I think also the fact that I knew the overall plot of the story is probably making me a little more forgiving than you are. Because I think when you watch a movie with an average or bad plot, it's never as bad the second time you watch it. Like the holes and inconsistencies and things. So I think I already knew the broad strokes of the movie. So watching it kind of play out again, I found it very brisk and very kind of tight, and it, I guess really for me, where it falls apart and where it really stops working is, I mean, the first act is fairly solid, I think. I think that you set the characters up reasonably well. And then the kind of American military arrives, headed by Matthew McConaughey, who's chewing up scenery. And
so good. I thought he was amazing. He looked great. His costume, his bald head. I fucking loved that.
Yeah, same. I kind of liked all of that. And there was a little bit, they kind of set up a kind of rivalry, and then we take down a dragon and we get some decent action, I would say. And then I think where the whole thing falls apart for me is that Matthew McConaughey decides he's going to roll into London and take on the big bad dragon.
I hate the final act, man.
Not even the final act we'll get to, but the second act is like, let's go to London. They get most of the way there, realize they can't go any further, And then immediately the whole team gets wiped out. Him and one other guy survive. The Christian Bale's castle gets burned down, and all his, so many of his friends die. And then Matthew McConaughey
gets killed. Yeah.
Matthew McConaughey comes back, and he's like, "You were right. You've killed everybody. You just maybe ended humanity. Like, we don't know how many other people there are, and you're reckless." The thing is that it doesn't even fit within the character they've introduced, because he seems so together and he seems so confident in the first action sequence. The end of Act 1 when they take down the dragon, he has his shit together and he's planned with his people, and you buy the fact that they've survived this long. And then and then in Act 2, he's the dumbest person he's the dumbest person there is in the movie, and he makes the worst decision. He has no plan at all. He rolls into what he knows is the most dangerous place he can, and then their big plan is just to shoot guns at it.
He arrives and he's like, "I'm the American military," and it's kind of like, all right, so Christian Bale's is kind of like, like this humble kind of like survivor. He's gathering like these children, and like, he's kind of like, so he's very different to the military, and there's kind of those two leaders, and how will they like work together or not work together. But it just, I felt like everything in the movie kind of was there, and then it was just kind of story-wise more on like a surface level. Like, as you said, his plan is to go in there, and he's the confident military guy, but then it's like, what's his actual plan? Nothing. And then when he comes back, he's like, "I'm sorry," and they're like, "That's all good. We'll go together." And I don't know, I felt like the story beats, like when he's like, we've figured out that it's the females, they're doing this, and they're mostly females, and he's like, "I don't check their plumbing, blah blah blah," and it's like, okay. Okay. And then he's like, "There's only one male. There's only one male." And I'm like, what the fuck do you mean there's only one male? You at the start of the movie, actually, my favorite bit in the movie was at the start, where it's like flashing over news reports and stuff, and he's like, "It turned out that these dragons killed the dinosaurs." It's like, what the fuck? What are you talking? Okay, that is an amazing concept. I love the idea that like the dinosaurs are like hanging about, being dinosaurs, and then like they see these dragons, and they're like, "Oh my god, they're like us but with wings," and they start breathing fire, and they're like, "Oh my god, they're like mutants." And I like the idea of like dragons being like, "Fuck you dinosaurs," and taking them out. Kind of feel like I'd just rather see that movie. But that was such an insane, hilarious concept. And they're like, they spawned, there's millions of them and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, okay. But you're saying that the one fucking male dragon did all this? That like, that the nuclear bombs that destroyed the whole planet, like, didn't wipe him out? Because like, he's clearly not like flame resistant, because they just blow him up essentially. He's got scars all over him. Like,
they shoot him with a little rocket thing, and it just...
Oh my god,
like,
so stupid.
Like, I mean, as soon as like the actual American military went up against them, I feel like if that's how strong they are, I mean, humans probably would have won the war.
Yeah, easily. And they kind of go like, they're like, "Oh, we started fighting them," and then suddenly they swarmed, and there was millions of them. And I don't know. I feel like the idea of millions of dragons just kind of, that's just already too many.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's way too many. Like, I don't know. I feel like, I mean, obviously, I don't know. I don't want to bring it up too much, but it is my main dragon thought. But it's like 3 dragons in Game of Thrones. That's enough to end all life. You know what I mean?
And turn the tide of war.
Turn the tides of wars. Yeah. One dragon in a battle, that's it. Because it's a nuclear weapon. So they're like, how will the dragons beat nuclear weapons? I guess there's just millions of them. And it just felt so like, okay, you got guns, you got like I like the idea of the helicopter thing. We'll get to that in a sec. But like, the first time he takes out a dragon, Christian Bale's running on a horse.
Yeah. The
dragon comes over a hill, and he shoots him Bronze style with a crossbow. The exact same like setup and scene. It just, and then he jumps off, and there's a big fight. And I'm just like, okay, it's not that that's bad. It's just that I feel like that scene would be the same in a fantasy. Like, his castle, where they live, I was like, this is pretty cool. Then I'm like, but is it? This feels kind of medieval. Like, I want to see them in like a suburban home or a skyscraper. I don't know. I want to utilize your modern setting. Like the first fucking scene, I hate the first scene where the dragon they awaken the dragon in like the catacombs of London, and he just climbs up like a staircase, crushes the mum, looks at the main character, and then flies off. Like, it just felt so... I don't know, when that started, I was like, oh my god, what the fuck? But then the movie was saved because he was like telling all the kids the Star Wars thing, and I thought that was really cute. I love Christian Bale at the start. There was a bit where he's like, go to bed, and they're like, oh, and he's like off to bed, and I'm like, okay, he's such a good father figure of this community thing. I really liked him in this. He's I didn't really like Joe Butler, but I don't know if I just don't like him in general. Like, he appears and he's like, I'm your best friend, and I'm like, the worst thing a best friend character can say in their first line of the movie is, hey, I'm your best friend, main character. And I was like, he's gonna die at the end. I fucking did.
He did. He died exactly at the end of the second act, which is where he needed to go.
But I just felt like, all those elements, like there's that boy character, like his surrogate son. I loved the concept of that, and the idea of like at the end he's like, you are the leader now, you talk to the French people and get us some wine. But I don't know, when it happened I laughed out loud, and not like with it, like very much at the movie. And I don't know, there's just so many like, I don't know, well actually, for a thing I really did like, did you enjoy the helicopter versus dragon scene?
But there are a couple of shots that kind of let it down. Yeah, probably the main one I can think. I mean, the sequence is for the most part pretty good, but the shots that I was thinking of where the dragon just moves too quickly and too erratically, most of them are from that sequence, and especially when it hits the helicopter. I mean, I was just like, what? No, why did you do that?
So
why?
I don't think I even properly visualized that moment of it hitting. I just kind of was like, oh, this is kind of fun. Like, they're in the helicopter.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know, with them skydiving, I was like, this kind of feels like you've gone into like Fast and Furious post the fifth movie feeling. But I feel like the movie and the actors, like when Christian Bale's looking up at this action, he's acting in a serious movie. And the action scene I'm watching is kind of not... I don't know. The idea you get three guys to jump and throw like nets on a dragon is kind of fun and stupid. But it's insane and ridiculous. And it's just so self-serious that there isn't... I don't know. It's like when they appear and Joe Butler's like, you guys, you jump out of helicopters and fight dragons with nets. And they're like, just so self-serious. And I don't know. I just felt like there was like... There needed at least one moment of kind of like poking its tongue out at us to be like, hey, we're all just going to have fun here with some dragon action. You know what I mean?
Yeah. This is Mad Max with dragons, guys. We're all being a bit silly. Yeah, they needed a little bit of levity. They probably needed a Han Solo in there to point out that this whole thing is stupid.
If Joe Butler's character had been like your Han Solo type and had that kind of like, this whole dragon apocalypse is obscene. I don't know. I don't even know if I want that. I feel like almost going the other way. Like you've set this movie really dirty and gritty. It's got that apocalypse feel that reminded me of like The Road and Book of Eli, Children of Men. Just that very dreary, but not like, look at how crazy dreary, like Mad Maxy. It was kind of like more realistic. Yeah. But I almost feel like you go fully serious. Go like, dragons have taken over, and we got it. Like, because I really
Which means you cut that action sequence. Is that what you're saying? You don't have that in there. It's too wild for this universe.
I don't know. I liked that they tried to do something crazy.
I think that action sequence might be fixed if you maybe just, because you're right. It is very like Fast and Furious, like impossible. And everything else in the movie is not that. Even the way they ultimately take down the big bad dragon, like, seems very grounded. And I mean, it's a bit easy, but it's not like, it's
incredibly easy.
I think maybe what they should have done is something like, look, these dragons are too fast, so we are going to jump out of a helicopter, and that'll get us fast enough that we can kind of dodge this thing. And get it to follow us, and then we shoot it. Which I get, is that what the plan was?
It's like one jumps out to like lure the dragon, and then the other two kind of come down on top. And
net it.
That's like, that kind of makes sense. I guess my brain just goes, what kind of fucking nets are you doing? And I guess they've proven that they've done this in the past. But I was just like, when they were like, wait, I think I saw the net fly past. Did it not work? I was like, of course it didn't work. Why would you think this would work? How has this ever worked? And then when he's like, we lost 3 men to kill this dragon. I'm like, that's great. I know there's not many of them, but it's like only 3 men to kill a dragon. I was like, that's a good ratio, I feel. Not, you know, I mean, obviously sad that people die, but the whole world's dead. Like more than, you know, I don't know. I just, also another huge issue. Not a huge issue, but it's like, they're like, the dragon is male and there's one and it's real big. I was like, holy shit, he's going to be real big. And then he appears and I'm like, he's the same size as the other dragons. Oh my God, he's the same size as the dragon that dies. The first dragon appears and it's like, okay, yeah, you know, it's a dragon, it's flying about, we see the size. Then Matthew McConaughey fucking kills one. And my favorite bit in the movie was when it's like crashed into the ground and we get a beautiful practical thing. And it just looks incredible. The dragon's mouth is all open. One of its wings is like ripped open and snapped, which I just love the idea of it. You know, just, they didn't need to do that. That's like a little extra detail where someone's like, oh, if it had crashed, you know, maybe his bones snap. I don't know. It was just really inventive, beautiful stuff. Stuff where I was like, I'm looking at that being like, this movie being made when it was, I just feel like maybe you'd just CGI that, you know? Now, I don't know, just so much, like, I loved every aspect of that in the film. That was so real.
But then the big boy dragon at the end is CGI when it's dead, which to me, I was like, if you did that big, awesome practical effect earlier,
just use it again, but color it
differently. Can't you just put it on this set now and like move the bits around and break some different stuff and because it looks so good.
Do a size thing. If somehow I'm wrong about this size issue they have throughout the movie, and I'm not, because
it's marginally bigger. That's the thing, and you don't really ever get a connecting shot where you see a bunch of drag. I know it grabs one girl.
No, you do. It eats a girl dragon, but as if it's like a tiny little.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's just inconsistent.
That's the scene that creates the inconsistency, because I kind of hate that as well. They all explode out like kind of bats, and I was just kind of like, oh, that's too many dragons. Like they can't. You know, you can't fight that many dragons. I just felt like I was lost with like, oh, they'll either kill them all now because they will or they won't. I just felt like the end was so like, blah, blah, blah. But you've got these like, I don't know, the size of the dragon, like the head, when he like Matthew McConaughey like hits the corpse, and you're like, fuck yeah. It just felt, I don't know, I just felt like I wanted the big one at the end to be like in, I want to say How I Met Your Dragon, but that's not it. What's that?
How to Train Your Dragon.
How to Train, yeah.
How I Met Your Dragon.
What am I saying? And so it's like oh yeah, I realize what I mixed up now. Well, what am I saying? Yeah, like, I don't know. I feel like, because he was like, there's one big dragon, he's male. I was like, okay, if you're going to be this stupid and dumb, I'll have to accept that. At least I'm going to get a real big dragon. Yeah. And I was expecting, like in How to Train Your Dragon, that reveal. Oh, wait, you've seen
in the second one, yeah? The giant. Is that
only in the second one? I thought it was in the first, and then the second one's like, we're also doing another big one. Now there's 2 big ones.
Oh, maybe. I mean, it's been so long. I've only seen. I've only seen 2. I've seen 1 and 2. I never saw the third one. I enjoyed them, but I also
I absolutely love the first 2.
I remember the second one. I really felt like, oh, you could have Empire Strikes Back this, and I would have totally come for the next one. But you wrapped everything up, and now I'm not really too keen on seeing more. Like I felt
it's terrible. Yeah.
Oh yeah, is it
terrible? I just think that 1 and 2 are really good, and as you said, 2 doesn't go. Where, you know, 2 isn't the middle chapter. 2 feels like
it's so close to being that. One. They flip the mother-father dynamic, and the mum is like the dark
dragon warrior lady.
Mysterious. Yeah. And I thought they were heading that way because I can't remember exactly what, but you know, there's a lot of consequence by the end of the movie, and I'm just like, oh, like everything's going down. They're gonna like cliffhang. You know, this movie's definitely going to be a success. So of course they're gonna do a trilogy.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I remember now, like, it's the first one because it's like the dragons are dropping sheep off or some shit, and then you get that huge reveal of this giant dragon which could eat like 50 of the other dragons, you know, like in one bite, and it's like that scale. I was like, yeah, this is a little kids animated movie, but I am totally awestruck and intimidated and scared because it's like, that dragon's clearly like the god dragon. Look how big it, you know what? And this one I was like, wow, look how big it is in comparison. And then when they went up against it and it flew and burned Matthew McConaughey's thing, I was like, it's the same fucking size as the other dragons. Compared to, I don't know, and it just felt weird. I don't know, maybe I'm just overthinking it, and it is a bit bigger, and it's not meant to be that much bigger.
It even feels like the one shot where you connect to the boy and girl dragon was like an afterthought. You know, you can see them like it's scrambling to be like, oh, we never really like showed the size difference with a shot on screen, so let's just throw this visual effect shot in here.
I actually think that you could be right, because that scene had my first, that I can recall, moment where I'm like, hey, they ADR'd it. I caught an ADR. I caught it. Because usually when someone mentioned that, like, it was a shot of someone else and then this character says this and clearly it's to this and that, and I'm like, oh yeah, I didn't really pick up on this. But in this movie, the big dragon eats the little dragon, like the girl, and flies off. And then it's a shot of Christian Bale and Matthew McConaughey says it, or vice versa, it doesn't matter. But it's not of the person saying it, and they're like, man, he's so hungry, he's eating his own dragons.
Yeah.
You know, or something like that. And it just felt so much like they showed the cut to someone, and someone was like, what the fuck? Why is he killing the females? Like, I don't understand. And they're like, oh, okay, we've got to explain that he's so hungry that he's, you know, can't find humans to eat. Yeah. But then I'm like, what do you mean he's eating them? Because the fucking guy at the start of the movie is like, he doesn't even care about us. He's just here for the ash. And I was like, oh my God, the dragons don't eat people. They eat ash. Like, that's great. Really cool. And then later in the movie, it's like, nah, the dragons eat meat because the dragon's eating another dragon. It's cannibalistic. It's like, what do you mean? If it's eating ash, then it would kill the dragon, throw the dragon on the ground, burn it, and then eat that. I don't know, man.
Which that'd be a sick visual.
That would be so cool if it like melted down a dragon to ash, and then like, I don't know. I just felt like every time they mentioned something, I was like, ooh, I can't wait to see that be like, you know, that final moment. They wanted more of that hands-on kind of like, because if it's as big as I want it to be, the scene they play out, I mean, not even though, because I want it to be like Smaug big. And the end of the movie is the exact same scene in Hobbit 3, where it's like, there's a dude on a tower, he's got a weapon that shouldn't really be able to kill this big dragon, but magic arrow or magic flame arrow in this or whatever. I don't care about that as much. But it's like one man against a tower, dragons running straight at him. And I don't know, I just feel like you could have had him be bigger. And then maybe, I don't know, I just feel like, or maybe you've seen him from a distance and only when he comes close do they realize like how truly big it is. And maybe it's, I don't know, I don't know. I like there's just so many different ways they could have done it. Like, it could have been so big that it swallows Matthew McConaughey, and then Matthew McConaughey's like inside it and kills it that way, and that's the only way. Like, the Sun Guardians 2, they do that. They're like, its skin's too strong, so they just go inside to kill it. I think that's how it happens. But it's like, I just feel like I wanted some more kind of inventive stuff, and I guess this did come out before all dragon stuff that I have seen, but I felt like, yeah, I don't know, just that final act where it's like Matthew McConaughey's sitting up there with a bow and arrow or whatever, and then he fucking jumps with an axe. Like as you said, he's so clever and smart at the start. I was really on board with him. But then by the end, he's like shirt off on a big green screen on a tower, and he jumps off with an axe to like kill this dragon. This dragon that ended the world. This male dragon that has somehow survived this whole nuclear apocalypse dragon thing totally unscathed, and he's going to try and jump at it with an axe. I don't know. I was just like, I thought that was real dumb and a really awkward way to end his character. And it kind of made me look back on the whole film and be like, I don't know. Where did we go wrong, movie? Like, I think this is a movie about dragons. Why am I so like, at the end?
I think it's all really, I mean, maybe it's just the inclusion entirely of the boy dragon, you know, like
I think it is, man. Yeah.
Really, like everything related to that is where it doesn't work. And then all the kind of interesting stuff at the start when it's a bit simpler and the dragons are just flying around and burning shit. That's when it's most engaging. And then as soon as you get to the end of the second act and we see the boy dragon, and then it kills all of Matthew McConaughey's dudes in one go. Yet he somehow survives just under the car. which is completely incinerated and melted when we see it later on.
You can see some fire like go under. I don't know. It's like, and I don't even know how you do that, but it's like, actually, I was gonna say because he could have maybe put on a suit quickly. Or, I don't know. There's so many little ways where you're like, okay, so he's going to survive, and all his boys are gonna die. So that's a beat, you know. Don't just have him survive. Have a reason for him to survive. Like, was he the quickest? Did he actually jump in cowardice? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so then at the end when he jumps at the dragon, you're like, well, because he jumped away in fear. So now he's trying to like, you know what I mean? Like, just little bits. Give me stuff, man.
Give me something.
Spending like, what, like probably a year in pre-production making these dragons look as good as they do on the computer and the practical stuff. It's like, fucking write a better story. I'm sick of seeing dragons and having to turn my brain off to enjoy them. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it, and obviously that's Thrones' fault, but it's like, I want to be able to watch a dragon, but not have to just switch off everything and just enjoy the big dinosaur killing, fire-breathing lizard man. You know, I don't know. It's like, I just feel like, I don't know. I can't really think of anything straight off the top of my head, but there were so many cool things. Like at the start, when those guys are like, I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna fucking go and like steal all the tomatoes, and because maybe we won't survive tomorrow. You know, who cares about next harvest? We won't be alive. That's some intense stuff to like start your movie with. To be like right there, it's over. And like 10 minutes in, Joe Butler's like, I don't know how we're going to get through this. Like, how the fuck are we gonna get through this? All our stuff is gone. So I don't know. Maybe it should have been second act should have been like, we've got to find somewhere new. Maybe Matthew McConaughey has like a Greenland. I don't know. I'm just quickly coming up with ideas.
For sure. And
I wanted something more,
Yeah, I would, and that's what I was doing before. But then the more I think about it, the more I realize you really do have to kind of pull this whole thing apart to put it back together in a really satisfactory way. Like it does start out very but even now thinking about those people who leave and then are essentially responsible for the entire food source being gone. Because I would imagine the dragon would not have burnt it. Although then they do say it feeds on ash, so maybe it was going to eat the... It does seem like they were responsible for all of that being burnt. Because it does seem like the dragon's gone. And I just feel like you needed a little bit more of a moment where they go, like all he says is like, I told you. But it's like, no, all your food's gone. Like... You need to react a little bit stronger here. You're fucked. You know, it's exactly the same problem at the end of the second act when Matthew McConaughey comes back and is responsible for almost everyone dying. Christian Bale, you need to get more angry.
And I don't know, because as well, like, because I was just thinking then, it's like, I actually really like the fact that when, at the start, like, that guy has destroyed all the crops and they're having a drink and Joe Butler's like, fucking all our crops are gone. And then Christian Bale's like, man, I feel sorry for that guy who completely ruined and probably killed us all due to his selfishness. I feel sorry for him because he has to bury his son. And I was like, oh my God, look at this compassionate man in this uncompassionate world. But then you need to make Joe Butler's character like way more like put his drink down and be like, what the fuck are you talking about? Fuck that guy. If I was in charge, I'd kill him. Yeah. And then,
I'd bury him in his son's grave.
And then maybe even have him kick him out.
Yeah.
And then maybe he comes back with Matthew McConaughey, and that's how they find the place. And I don't know, it's like, there's so many cool-ish ideas. Like, I really loved Matthew McConaughey's entrance when he's like, there was this story of these brothers and they died and the townsfolk took over, and he's like, are you one of those brothers? Are you not dead? He's like, no, we're the townsfolk. That was my favorite bit. I was like, oh my God, that's such a great like moment, like this idea that stories of certain people fighting dragons have spread across the world. And I don't know, even though it's like, how the fuck did that happen? How are they even there? It's London. They're from America. How did they fly there? Did they catch a boat? I don't know. It doesn't matter. There's millions of dragons flying about, but they caught a boat across the continent. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. I don't know. I'm being real harsh on it. Like, I've been super brutal. So it's fucking shit. But I really enjoyed, like, certain ideas of it. Like, I like the idea of that green, kind of, you know, just very, like... But I just felt like the whole visual of the story in the movie just... I just felt like maybe I'm just sick of like that dreary apocalypse, and like it'd be interesting to see something different, because that is the whole point. That like it's a world of ash. They've burnt it all, and a lot of it was really cool. But there was a bit where like the tanks were rolling through the city. I think it was just before they all died, and he's rolling through the destroyed city, and there was just a shot where there's like a skeleton on the ground and the tank's kind of rolling by, and I was like, yeah. And there's like a blue light kind of in the background. I'm like,
it looks exactly like Terminator 2, kind of.
Exactly like Terminator 2. Yeah. That's exactly what I was saying. Yeah, it's the skull rolling over to getting crushed, and it's like, I know that it was probably them being like, oh, it's a little cheeky little reference or something, but it just, I don't know. I just felt so like, but I feel like if the story and everything else was right up there, I would be like, oh, that's totally fine. You can have it. Movies can have the same visual thing. It's an apocalypse, like. The dragons, they make it all ashy and grey and dreary, but it didn't feel original and like unique in the way I kind of.
Well, there's another shot that I thought of. I mean, that shot does feel so derivative and kind of like familiar, and it took me out of it. It sounds like the same way it took you out of it. But then I can think of another shot where the camera's kind of like dollying past. Is it like a graveyard or something? There's like a fire in the background, and it's a really long shot. And I think it's something like that, and I'm like, oh, that was like really beautiful and like stood out. It's kind of dreary still, but it's not as blue. It felt like very kind of red and orange, and I don't know. You just get a lot more depth, and that felt
was a fucking beautiful shot.
And I wanted kind of more of that. And I thought the shots of all the shots of the dragons and visual effects that are implemented in that style are what is when the movie is working really well. And then when it gets derivative and lazy, and I guess it almost seems like they had the start of the movie worked out really well, and it kind of slipped away from them more and more as the movie goes on.
I think my biggest issue is that like as soon as Matthew McConaughey's like, all right, we've got a plan. It's you, me, and the lady character. We're going to kill the one male dragon and end it's as soon as he started speaking and that scene played out, I was like, oh, cool. There's a Night King, and then all the other dragons won't be able to reproduce, so it's the same as them all just falling over. This is the I don't know. It's like the Thanos issue. It's just so many times they're like, if you kill the big bad guy, everyone else will die. And it's like the vampire. You kill the Dracula and all the mini Draculas will die.
But in this case, it makes no sense because they're just animals. And now there are still millions of female dragons flying around the world. They're not all dead. Yeah. And then we cut to the last scene of the movie and he's like, it's been 3 months since we've seen a dragon. And I'm like, why? Yeah, why?
If anything, I was just going to say, if anything, you should be seeing way more dragons until you kill them all, because all the females should be coming back to lay their eggs in the only place they can lay their eggs. Because what is the dragon jumping across, like just going everywhere to fertilize everywhere? It seems like he lives in London and has stayed there the whole time.
Yeah.
And and it's like, okay, you're going to kill the big bad dragon. And it just happens that the one dude who's figured out how to do it with the one lady happens to meet the last survivor, who happens to be ground patient zero. He's the only one that's seen the male dragon. He didn't mention anything that he met this giant different dragon. I don't know. I was just like, oh, this has become so stupid. It's gone from this like intense apocalyptic dragon movie to this just obscene, out of control, like, and then like, I don't know, as it was playing out, I'm like, they're either going to kill it or they won't. And I just don't care either way. But of course they're going to win, because it'd be so weird to introduce this, we can actually save the world. That's my biggest issue actually, probably, is that they've decided that they want to save the world, that they can save the world. And it's like, if you're going to fucking create the dragons that killed the dinosaurs, just have them be that they are now the ultimate rulers and that we can't take it back. It's just about surviving, yeah? Or
they're a cyclical event that repeats again and again and wipes, whatever's on the earth back to nothing. Oh my
God.
And
like
then
Mother Nature's own, like...
For sure. And then you end the movie with maybe the dragon returning to slumber or something, And it's like, we got peace now, but who knows how long this will last, then
But,
what do we do?
wait, do you mean that the dragon would kill them at the end and then just go back to sleep? So
I
it's
don't-
like he
no,
woke up
no.
to kill the dinosaurs and he fell asleep and he woke up to kill humans, fell back asleep. Because I love that. I think the ending should have been like, I mean, I don't know, the ending where he's like, you're the leader now. I'm like, there's just been so little development of this dude. Like, fuck, that side kid was just so underdeveloped. It made me like, was there a scene? Like, I feel like my movie was missing scenes because the son or surrogate son leaves. He's like, you're not my father. And then when he comes back, he's just back. There was no moment where he was with Matthew McConaughey and Matthew McConaughey's like, all right, so this is the actual plan. And he's like, oh, this isn't it. I don't know.
Yeah, there's not even the bare bones of what the arc you think they're doing.
There's not even the pretense. There's not even pretending that there's a scene. He's just back. When it actually happened, I thought, because he's there picking the tomatoes, and the son appears. He's like, I'm back, and I don't know. There was something about it where I was like, oh my god, is this like a dream sequence? Is he already dead? And that was literally
You're
what I
giving
was
the movie
thinking.
too much credit.
Yeah, because it doesn't make any sense that it would be back. Because I was like, there hasn't been a scene. So I was like, oh my god, I don't know. It was just, I actually had to take it back because I was like, I've clearly not realized that I've like looked at my phone for 10 minutes and missed a bunch, but I must have because this can't possibly be the next scene. But it's exactly the same as that issue with the Planet of the Apes movie where he's like, have a rose in your hair. Then the next scene, she's like, "Oh my god, he's dead!" And
You missed the scene in the middle where you develop it.
Just be scene. Yeah. Oh my god.
The director of this film only directed one film after this.
I actually also looked at what the director had done, and it is very funny to see what they made because it's Electra, right?
Yeah. So
yeah, I haven't actually seen that, but I've heard it's fucking shit.
Yeah, I haven't seen it in a very long time, but like where the memory of this movie, maybe you remember like the better parts of it. Electra is one where you remember the bad bits.
No, it's kind of funny because it's like you see like a director. I don't know. It's like I didn't do any research into why he hasn't made a film since like 2004 or whatever. But like he made this. He's clearly got a vision. He probably did mostly what he wanted to do. He's probably very impressed with the visual effects. Probably didn't do very well. I haven't actually looked at it, but I imagine this movie wasn't received very well just because I don't know. I was not aware of this movie existing until like 5 years ago, and I'm a big fantasy fan, big dragon fan, I don't know.
Big post-apocalyptic fan. You're the cross section of like who this movie's for. You're in the middle of the Venn diagram of genres,
which I think is a huge issue, and the reason because I was gonna say something, but I'll say a different one that's the same idea. No one hates Star Wars like a Star Wars fan.
Yeah,
and that's because there's too much love, and when you love something, you can then turn on it and hate it more. And I think just because I love dragons, I always want to see more. And so and of course, my most recent dragon history has been love seeing them, hate everything about the story around them for Thrones, like more and more as it went. And there being the biggest issues in the show being dragon related, which is just, that was never the case. Well, for this movie to have that same issue for me just kind of made me sad. And I just kind of was like,
maybe it's the dragon. We can call this the dragon problem. And and what it is if you have enough money to make a dragon, then you have to make the movie, I guess, broadly appealing enough to sell it to enough people.
You spent so much money on the dragon? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's like it's not specific to dragons, but any real big visual effect. I guess really what you get is like a movie like this. This cost I think $60 million, and then it made $80 million.
That's rough. That is rough.
Yeah, if you go by the rule of thumb is that you got to double to break even or something like that.
Isn't that because marketing?
But then you also don't get there's that Hollywood accounting thing where I think with losses they tend to underreport, and then because then I mean, a studio, for the most part, especially one this is Touchstone Pictures, which just means it's Disney.
Okay, right.
And you don't really see them a lot anymore. But Touchstone just made all of Disney's PG and R-rated movies.
Oh, so wait, do you mean anything that's not G then, or?
Yeah, pretty much. I like,
okay.
Or maybe it's like M and up. I don't, because the rating system is different here than it is to the US. So it might be an American PG.
Right. Which is our M, yeah.
Yeah, like they did a lot of M. Night Shyamalan stuff. They're all kind of Disney productions, but obviously you don't want the Disney name on his movies. It just doesn't fit. So
yeah, of course not. I mean, you don't want anything related to you with him either.
Yeah.
I hate M. Night Shyamalan.
Well, I think you can actually. The funny part is that when he left Touchstone is actually when he left Disney is when he really started going off the rails. Like,
oh really?
I know you're not a big fan of even his earlier work, but
no, hate every film he's ever made. They're all bad.
but it was, I think, Lady in the Water is the one that.
Oh, so when it got real bad, when everyone else was like, wait, is he bad now?
Well, it was a result of an executive that he had worked with, a producer or somebody saying to him, "This is a bad script. You should not make this. We don't want to do." And then he went to a different studio, and it maybe got he got a few too many yeses.
Yeah, right.
And that's what can undo a lot of people, especially when, like, he was built up to be the next Spielberg. I can't even remember what the original point I was getting at here was. I guess what was I saying?
Something like Touchstone. We're talking about the production company. Touchstone.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe all this was a really catchy title, and we can do dragons now with CGI, and let's figure out how to put it together, and then it didn't all.
There's
come
guns.
Yeah.
Which I just felt like they didn't really do it. Like there was a bit right at the end where Christian Bale's like in the distance and the dragon's facing off, and then the lady just runs across right in front of the dragon, just shooting the gun like, and it's just like, I don't know. At first she's shooting and the dragon doesn't respond until like she shot a couple of bullets. I was just like, oh, the dragon didn't respond properly. This is all off. But it was also just like, I don't know. It just like, what is this world? Like they didn't set up that the dragon's skin is impenetrable. It just felt so like, why are we shooting bullets? Like, if you shoot enough bullets, will it die? Is it like a big boss? You just gotta whittle it down?
Well, yeah.
Are they trying to get it in the mouth? It just, there was so much, I don't know. I wanted, I don't know. It was pretty tight, but I just wanted it to be more like, I don't know. When they're all shooting and stuff, I'm like, is this pointless?
Yeah.
Because I want to know if this is pointless or if shooting guns will work. You know what I mean? Like, just so I'm aware of where I'm meant to emotionally be with the characters, I guess. Because Matthew McConaughey jumps off a fucking tower with an axe. Did he think maybe he was going to get it? Or was he like, it doesn't matter, I'm going to die anyway. May as well
I'll just
go
try.
die, looking cool. But then that didn't feel like that really fit with his character. Because then it was like, why didn't he do that when all his boys were dead? Why didn't he go running after the dragons as it escaped, trying to catch it and die a hero? Like, I don't know, yeah, just... But then again, I don't know, the dragon did look pretty cool.
There is also a very weird part right after Matthew McConaughey dies where the like railing above the girl kind of falls and you go, oh, it might fall on her and maybe Christian Bale's going to rescue her. No, it just falls. And nothing happens.
Yeah, maybe they were just...
They linger on that shot for so long and then they cut to her looking up and I'm like, is this connected? Or is she just looking at something nearby? What the fuck is going on? Like,
yeah. Maybe it was just them being like, dude, we can get this sweet like CGI effect with the railing will like fall at the camera and we'll be like, oh, look at it falling. And like maybe they were just testing out new shit and they're like, put it in. Put it in. It'll be sweet.
But do that, but just don't have that shot of her looking. So it doesn't, just very, very strange.
So, in terms of like, because I actually think that the dragons in Reign of Fire have a very kind of like, I feel like Game of Thrones took a lot of like the way they look, the way they kind of are. In Harry Potter, the dragon designs are really interesting. In the fourth movie, they have a bunch of dragons they don't really show us. They show us the little baby ones, which is such a brutal tease. But the actual design that I think is probably easily my favorite is the one at the end, the start of the final
Oh,
movie.
the one in Gringotts.
It's just
It's
like
pale and sickly.
it's the albino, sickly, just the whole setup where they've trained it to be this guard to this like certain part of the bank. Just the whole the whole idea of it with like chaining this animal, giving Hermione a freeing of animals, just the whole thing works on a story level for me really well. But just what I love is like the actual visual design of it. And my favorite bit is when it's clambering out of the what do you call it? The building, the bank.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like on the cathedral bit and it's smashed over. And then it just kind of sits there for a bit and it's just kind of like, and it kind of breathes and has a look around. And it's just this awfully kind of not pathetic, but very sad, tragic kind of dragon. And I really don't think that I don't know, dragons like you, there was no dragon like that in this. Like all the dragons in Reign of Fire, even male, female, no difference. They're all just they're all just like kind of animalistic and
Predators,
out to get the food. Yeah, very predator. There's not a look at the fact that this is just an animal and each type of animal has totally different, like I don't know. Yeah, I just really like that.
Well, taking your question maybe even a step further, what is the best dragon? Is it Game of Thrones?
Oh my god.
Like, what's the best dragon that's ever been put to screen? Is it Smaug? Is it the ones in Game of Thrones? Is it the one in Harry Potter? Is it, you know what I mean? Like there's got to be a winner.
Yeah, because I guess it depends on where you rank it. Because for me, it's like, okay, is it just the dragon on its own? Is it the dragon in the movie? Because like, for instance, Smaug is in the desolation of Smaug in a franchise in which take him out. What the fuck is that movie? You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Take him out of the third movie. What is that movie? There's no you know what I mean? Like, so he carries so much. So you've got to give him some credit for that. But then he talks too much and has a big over the top scene after his great dialogue scene in 2 that kind of botches him for me. Game of Thrones would obviously be the best dragons because they're babies, they're actual characters, they mean so much, they have personalities.
Yeah.
You watch them grow, but by season 7, the first truly unforgivably terrible scene and action moment and whole episode really comes down to the dragons flying the whole continent in like 25 minutes or whatever the fuck, It's like, so I'm constantly reminded that they went, well, they're dragons, so story doesn't matter anymore. So it's and I really think the dragons kind of are to blame a bit because they're so good. So I don't know if I love them anymore, and they just all die from spears or whatever. Like, fucking who gives a shit? So my thoughts, like, what is it? I love the Nazgul. I know it's more of like a wyvern than a dragon, I think, potentially.
Yeah, but it's very...
more serpenty, but it's a winged beast. I guess it doesn't breathe fire, though, so maybe it doesn't count. But I love them because they feel dangerous. They feel like, scary. But then when one lands, it isn't so big that if you swung a sword, you can kill it.
Yeah.
There was no pretext that their armor is the greatest armor ever and can never be pierced, so you got to pierce it in that one bit that doesn't have the armor, or in this movie, shoot it in the mouth with... So...
Yeah, you're right. You would have to rank a question like this. Like, what's the best visual effect? What's the best character? What's the best implementation?
There's so many different...
Yeah.
But, okay, take all that away. Kieran, what's your favorite dragon? What's your answer?
Oh, God.
I know, that was my response. I'm like, there's too many variables. I can't do it. It's just... And I feel like as soon as I go, it's Drogon because of this scene, then you'll be like, what about that scene where he melted the Iron Throne? And you're like, wait, what the fuck? Is he aware that's a symbol? Like, is he burning the symbol that's killed his mum and just made her a tyrannical... Or is he just accidentally burning just whatever next to her because he's like, I don't know. You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't think it can be Game of Thrones because I just fucking hate it so much. But I think it is, Because the character... I don't know.
Thinking about it all, it does seem like the spectacle of a dragon seems to just crush and destroy the thing that it's been placed upon. Like the story structure gets thrown out the window because it's like, there's a fucking dragon. So
which is
why Harry Potter might be the ones that do it best, because they never get bogged down in the dragon in 4 and in 7 or 8.
Yeah, I think
like they do it twice, you know, just a little dragon scene in
dragons
here
as well, man.
They're
just in the
great.
world. Oh, we have forgotten as well, and I've got to mention it because, you know, but there is actually a third dragon, like a baby dragon, in the first Harry Potter. So it's like we get, like this big giant wants to like take care of this dragon, doesn't really see. Maybe as a whole, I love Harry Potter's look at dragons as a creature. You know, we've got, because, you know, they kind of
through the lens of the wizarding world.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, you've got this giant who like sees the dragons a certain way. Then the school and the people who want to get rid of the dragon at the school see it a different way. So they send it to this guy, like Ron's brother, who sees the dragons in a different way. And then the fourth one, I'm sure there'd be some people who are like, maybe they shouldn't use dragons in tournaments. And the others are like, well, they've trained them, and it's like using a horse or something. Yeah, and then other people are like, it's more like using an elephant. So you've got all this nuance kind of thing. And then the eighth one, you've kind of got the awful full twist on that. And they're like trained this scary beast to be their slave and like a really dangerous, like...
And there's like an animal abuse theme.
Yeah.
Along with it.
Yeah. Oh man, I think there's some good... I don't know. Yeah, I really like, now I'm thinking about it, what Harry Potter do with the dragons.
I mean, Game of Thrones has
just dragon.
Game of Thrones has the best kind of through line. You know, it goes literally from an egg to a gigantic creature, and they fumble the end. But as far as it all goes, like that, it's probably the best all around, like character / visual effects / like if you lump it all together, all that we get. But then it's I don't know, because Smaug just looks like a big flashy effect that's really good, and it's made by Weta. And I know Weta can do everything great, but it also just didn't, like it's almost like too big and disconnected from everything. And
yeah, because I mean, I think for Smaug, he is what he is. You know, he's literally stepping on a building to, you know, each step is like crushing buildings and buildings. He's so big. And
I like Smaug in the book more, because they kind of have a chat, and then he pisses him off, and then he you know
he goes and burns the town.
Yeah.
It's very simplistic in a way.
And they go for that kind of in the movie, but there's just a little bit too much fluffing around before we get to him.
Him getting drowned in gold.
It's
for me
bad.
It's just so bad. It's like, I remember the first time I was like, dragon looks good, and that overweighed everything. And then the second, the third, the fourth watch, because, you know, I mean, even though I don't really love it, I've seen it way too many times. It's such a shitty, horrific, like, it's like he talks, it's good. He just should have just flown off from that scene and gone to burn the town. And then that burning the town scene is pretty great, but it is also too big. Like, you compare him burning that town to Drogon burning King's Landing, and there's no comparison. When Drogon burns, it feels real. Even though it's stupid, it feels like he's actually burning people, and the consequence of something so big going through a town is just like line after line of street after street. I don't know. I think it might still be Drogon. There's a bit where Drogon lands in season 7, very like mid-ish, and Jon Snow goes and like pats him. And just the way they framed that and everything. That's one of my favorites. Also,
if we're giving a degree of difficulty here, you know, like they do in the Olympics, we would have to give Game of Thrones some... I mean, the fact that it's a TV show, it doesn't have the budget that all these movies are working with. Yeah, they're working on the same level, you know?
If you'd asked me 2 or 3 episodes... No, 5 episodes in, when that petting scene with Jon is... 5 episodes into season 7, I would have been like, what the fuck? This isn't even a question. You're an idiot for asking. It's Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones is the greatest thing ever, and they've made the greatest dragons. They're real characters. And they've used them sparingly. Like, every season, they only get a couple of moments. They're used exactly when they need to be. They even have the restraint in season 4 to just show them caging 2 of the dragons in a beautiful, tragic, emotional scene. Because you don't need to see them flying about trying to get captured. And because in the books, it's like, you know, there's like Unsullied being thrown about. They're trying to capture them, put them in. But no, it's a heartbreaking slow scene where she just kind of leads them in there, and then as she cries, she closes them in, shutting them off as they scream, realizing they're chained, and they're like, ah! Ah! And then there's a bit later where she's like, fuck you, you masters, and she just feeds them, and they just eat them. And then Tyrion's like, I always thought dragons were real, and I was like, I want to have a baby dragon, and now here you are, and he's like touching you, he's like, don't eat the hell. Oh no, what am I talking about? 6 good seasons and a little bit of good compared to 1.5 atrocious seasons. Yeah, it's the dragon. They're so good.
Yeah.
And then there's 3, so it's like that, I don't know, yeah. There's like the Big Papa one, then the 2, and so you're always a bit more worried about those 2, because like, Drogon's probably not going to die, but those ones, like, yeah, I've got to give it to the Thrones dragons.
Any other dragon-related media? There can't be anything that nears this. Just dragon movies. Let's see what comes up. I haven't seen Aragon, but I can't imagine it's better. No, there's really nothing. There's really nothing else.
Yeah, no, Aragon's got, it's like cheap, but not, it looks fine, but it's got a bit of a cheap effect. Like, if you compare like a movie dragon like that to the Thrones dragons, especially because it's a TV series, it's kind of embarrassing. And I know HBO's got a lot of money, but the money comparison is literally nothing compared to a full feature movie. Like, Aragon's got the talking dragon issue. I think that's Smaug's biggest thing. Like, as talking dragons go, it's King Talker.
Yeah.
But I also don't know if a dragon should talk. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It works for that universe because I don't know. I guess it just works. It just is what it is. I've always known that the dragon talked, so I guess I'm fine with it. Whereas, you know, I don't want Drogon at the end being like, this throne, it destroyed my mother and her goals and ambitions, so I will burn it. You know, it's like, I don't need it to speak. That would actually been amazing. That would have completely jumped the shark at that point.
Yeah.
To the point, incomprehensibly so.
And he's basically doing that by burning the throne anyway. So
No,
just go all the way. Yeah.
Oh my god. And then, oh my god, who would you voice Drogon, you know? Like, just bring back Sean Bean to voice the dragon.
I thought you were going to say Sean Connery because he was in he was in Dragonheart.
That would be so good. Yeah, I'm literally trying to think of other dragons, but I can't think of any. So they mustn't be coming to my mind, you know?
Yeah.
So I think Thrones really started my my re-obsession with dragons. There was this book I used to have, and it was like a different dragon from like each like country. It was like, this is the Chinese dragon. It was like a really small one, the size of like a peanut. And there's like, this is the dragon from Singapore, whatever. It's like this big, I can't remember what.
Yeah.
It's like they were all just different things. There was a 3-headed one. There was this one. It was just different colors, different sizes.
Well, it's worth
imagination thrown on a page, but dragons. And it was written by this guy who was like looking for them. He's like, I found this one and couldn't find it. And I loved dragons as a kid, and I don't think until Thrones came out, I was like, because that was when I was like, wait, these are my favorite things in the world. I love them.
Well, the actual concept of a dragon in itself is pretty remarkable when you look at human history, because you have all of these completely unrelated cultures spread out by vast amounts of time that all came up with this same rough idea, but never met each other.
Yeah.
Like every culture came up with the dragon or a pretty close approximation. Even the Aboriginal people of Australia have like a big serpent, and like I think I heard it described in a psychological sense as it is the amalgamation of the 3 big predators that humans faced, you know, long ago. So the dragon is basically imprinted in our genetic memory, and that's why it resonates with us, because it's an approximate.
What are the 3 things?
Snakes, big cats, and large winged
birds.
Yeah, birds. Yeah. The 3
because I was like, you got the big hawky kind of thing or whatever.
Yeah.
Like a bird. So then you got this snake, and then you got your beast, like your wolf. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Because it's like big enough to kind of be that animal on the ground, but then it flies. But then it's also got the scaly scariness of a snake, that weird, just otherworldly thing a snake kind of has, at least in my mind.
Well, they're predator, you know, they're all predator animals, and they all had even when you look at you look at some of the big cats that existed that we don't even know about now. Like there's a cat that has like a tooth in the middle of its jaw that was specifically to puncture a human skull. Yeah, there's like crazy shit like that. Like there are animals that existed that preyed on humans that we have no idea about, that really had an impact on our long-term evolutionary psychology, even to this day. That's like, we haven't been predator-prey situation because we've built, society is what it is now.
Because we live in a society.
Because we live in a society, dragons shouldn't resonate the way they do, but they still do, which is just very, very interesting to think about. Spoiler Talk is produced by KCBN Studios and Space Kraken Media.